The night their stock plummeted 90%. I didn't cry. I played the internal call recording they thought they'd deleted. They destroyed my career to protect their secrets, so I turned those secrets into evidence. When the market bell rang that morning, their reputation fell faster than their share price. And I stood there, listening to the sound of trust shattering like glass. They'd used my analysis to patch their lies, then painted me as the villain. But numbers don't lie. People do. And I had 8 months of their lies, time-stamped and verified. My name is Elena Marlowe, and I've spent the last 6 years learning that corporate trust is just another derivative, complex, leveraged, and ultimately worthless when the underlying asset is rotten. At 34, I'd built my reputation as a forensic auditor at Kestrel Meridian Research, a boutique analysis firm tucked into a glass tower in Ridgeline City, Colorado. We weren't the biggest players, but we were the sharpest. When institutional investors needed someone to cut through the PR and find the real numbers, they called us. That Tuesday morning in March, I was staring at Novalight Dynamics production data, and something felt off. The company had become Wall Street's darling, a clean battery manufacturer headquartered in Seaside Ridge, Delaware, promising to revolutionize energy storage while saving the planet. Their CEO, Dorian Kells, had graced 3 magazine covers that quarter alone. But numbers have their own grammar, and these were speaking in contradictions. The coffee maker in our break room gurgled its familiar death rattle as I cross-referenced shipping manifests with reported revenue. Novalight claimed 340,000 units shipped last quarter, but their logistics partners showed warehouse capacity for maybe half that. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead, casting that particular shade of corporate pallor over my 3 monitors. Find something interesting? Cole Vance leaned against my cubicle wall, his Princeton class ring catching the light. My direct supervisor had been my mentor once, back when I still believed mentorship meant something more than strategic positioning. His salt and pepper beard was perfectly trimmed, his smile practiced. Discrepancies, I said, not looking up. Their subsidiary in Costa Rica shows massive production, but the power consumption records don't support it. You can't manufacture batteries without electricity. Cole's expression shifted, just slightly. How significant? 47 million in phantom inventory, minimum. Maybe twice that. He whistled low. That's a serious allegation. Elena, you sure you want to go down this road? I finally looked at him. Since when do we not go down roads because they're serious? That evening, I met Maya Ortiz at our usual spot, a wine bar halfway between her law firm and my office. Maya had been my anchor through the madness of this industry, a securities attorney who understood both the letter and the spirit of the law. She was reviewing my preliminary findings on her phone, her expression growing darker with each swipe. This is explosive, she said. If you're right, Novalight's been cooking their books for at least 18 months. I'm right. I took a sip of Cabernet, feeling its warmth spread through my chest. The question is what happens next. My phone buzzed. Marcus. Running late, client emergency. Start without me. Marcus Hale had entered my life 8 months ago at an industry conference, all easy charm and knowing smiles. A PR consultant who worked with various tech firms, including, I'd learned after we'd been dating for 3 months, Novalight Dynamics. We'd agreed to maintain professional boundaries. Another derivative built on trust. Maya was explaining the SEC whistleblower process when Marcus finally arrived, his usually perfect hair slightly disheveled. He kissed my cheek, ordered a scotch, and settled beside me with that particular exhaustion I recognized, damage control mode. Rough day, I asked. You could say that. He loosened his tie. Sometimes I wonder if any of these companies actually make anything real anymore. The irony wasn't lost on me. I squeezed his hand, feeling the calluses from his weekend rock climbing. Real enough, human enough. Later, I'd wonder if he already knew what was coming, if that touch was an apology or a goodbye. Back in my apartment that night, I spread the documents across my dining table like tarot cards, each revealing another layer of deception. shell companies in the Caribbean, phantom purchase orders, creative interpretations of manufacturing capacity. The market valued Novolite at $12 billion. But I was looking at evidence that suggested half their operation was smoke and mirrors. Outside my window, Ridgeline City sparkled with the kind of optimism that only exists in places where people still believe in fresh starts. The mountains beyond were invisible in the darkness. But I knew they were there, immovable, indifferent, real. I opened my laptop and began typing my report. Subject: significant discrepancies in Novolite dynamics, financial reporting. Trust, I was learning, wasn't just the currency of the market. It was the currency of everything: careers, relationships, the stories we tell ourselves about who we are and what we're worth. And I was about to discover exactly what happens when that currency gets devalued overnight. The knife went in on a Thursday. I'd submitted my preliminary analysis to Cole on Monday, marking it confidential and for internal review only. By Wednesday night, Marcus had started pulling away, dinner canceled, texts growing shorter. That particular distance I'd seen before in men who were calculating exit strategies. I didn't connect the dots until Thursday afternoon, when the Business Insider headline flashed across my screen: Rogue analyst accused of market manipulation in Novolite short-selling scheme. My photo was right there, lifted from KMR's website. The article painted me as a predator, secretly building short positions while preparing a hit piece to crash the stock. Anonymous sources claimed I'd been shopping my fabricated report to hedge funds. The byline belonged to a reporter I'd never heard of. But the quotes? Those came from people I knew. People inside Novolite who shouldn't have known my analysis existed. Cole called me into his office within minutes. The walk from my desk felt like a perp walk, every colleague's eyes following me. His corner office overlooked the Denver skyline, all that glass and ambition reaching skyward. "Elena, I need you to understand this comes from above." He couldn't meet my eyes, focusing instead on straightening his Mont Blanc pen. The board received a cease and desist from Novolite's legal team. There are allegations of industrial espionage, violation of NDAs we apparently signed through a third-party data vendor. That's impossible. I used only public filings and legally obtained records. The perception is what matters. He slid a folder across his desk. 2 weeks paid leave while we investigate. Your keycard will be deactivated in an hour. I stared at him. You gave them my report. That's a serious accusation. It's the only explanation. The details in that article, they're responding to specific points I raised, points only you had access to. Cole's jaw tightened. Careful, Elena. You're already on thin ice. My phone buzzed. Marcus, we need to talk. I met him at a coffee shop downtown. One of those aggressively neutral spaces designed for breakups and bad news. He was already seated in the back corner, his usual confidence replaced by something that looked like shame, but was probably just discomfort. You knew, I said, sitting down. I found out yesterday. Novolite brought me in for crisis management, Elena. I had no idea they were going to... To what? Destroy my career? Paint me as a criminal? He reached for my hand. I pulled away. I signed an NDA, he said quietly. Last month, they're one of my biggest clients. I can't be involved with someone who's adversarial to their interests. Adversarial, I laughed, sharp and bitter. I was doing my job. I know, but I can't be caught between you and them. I have to choose. And you're choosing them. I'm choosing my firm, my employees, my future. He stood up. I'm sorry, Elena, I really am. He left me there with 2 untouched coffees and the realization that I'd been played from multiple angles. My analysis hadn't been buried, it had been weaponized. Novolite had used my findings to identify their vulnerabilities, then patched them just enough to survive scrutiny while discrediting the messenger. That evening, Novolite held their quarterly investor day at the Four Seasons. I watched the live stream from my apartment, still in my work clothes because changing felt like admitting defeat. Dorian Kells presented gleaming slides showing record production, revolutionary efficiency gains, and partnerships with major auto manufacturers. Every weak point I'd identified had been addressed with perfectly crafted explanations. They'd even discovered and corrected some accounting irregularities. Minor ones, of course, already resolved. Evidence of their commitment to transparency. The stock price climbed 7% in after-hours trading. Maya called as the presentation ended. Elena, I've been digging. 3 other analysts who questioned Novolite in the past 2 years all face similar accusations, all settled quietly. You're not the first. But I might be the last one standing. What are you going to do? I looked at my laptop. At the spreadsheets and documents that had cost me everything, trust was currency, and mine had been devalued to junk status. But currencies can be revalued, especially when you understand the underlying fundamentals. I'm going to prove that the real manipulation isn't in my report, I said. It's in their response to it. My keycard had been deactivated, my reputation shredded, my relationship terminated. But I still had the raw data, backed up in places Cole didn't know about. And more importantly, I had the recording of our Monday meeting, the one where Cole had explicitly mentioned sharing my findings with interested parties before quickly correcting himself. They thought they'd destroyed me to protect their secrets. They had no idea they'd just created their worst nightmare, an analyst with nothing left to lose and everything to prove. The drive to Greywater took 3 hours through mountain passes, still clutching the last of winter's snow. My mother lived in a 2-bedroom ranch she'd bought after the divorce, back when small Colorado towns were still affordable. I hadn't told her about the suspension, but mothers know. She took one look at me standing on her porch with a duffel bag and pulled me into the kind of hug that makes you feel 15 again. How long? She asked. Few weeks, maybe. She didn't press. That evening, over pot roast and silence, she mentioned that the Hendersons down the street had lost their jobs at the solar panel factory. Company called Sunset Manufacturing. Apparently they're a subsidiary of some bigger firm. Stopped paying wages 2 months ago, but kept demanding they show up, promising the money would come. Sunset Manufacturing. I knew that name. It was in Novolite's subsidiary filings, listed as a production partner. Another puzzle piece clicking into place. I spent my days in Greywater's single coffee shop, laptop open, watching the market move. Novolite stock had stabilized around $47, backed by retail investors who'd formed a Discord community called Novolite Nation. I lurked in their channels, reading their fevered discussions about diamond hands and long-term value. These weren't Wall Street sharks. They were teachers, contractors, retirees who'd bet their savings on the green revolution. Their faith was genuine, almost religious. Every doubter was labeled a shill. Every question about fundamentals dismissed as FUD. Fear, uncertainty, doubt. Just bought 500 more shares, one user posted. My kids' college funds are going to the moon. I closed the laptop, sick to my stomach. Maya called that afternoon. The SEC acknowledged receipt of your whistleblower complaint, but Elena, these investigations take months, sometimes years. I don't have years. Then we need a different approach. Have you considered the media? That's when Gus Larkin entered the picture. Maya knew him from a previous case, a freelance investigative journalist who specialized in corporate malfeasance. He drove up from Denver in a 10-year-old Subaru held together by bumper stickers and determination. We met at a truck stop diner off Highway 285, the kind of place where nobody asks questions and coffee comes in infinite refills. I've been following Novolite for 6 months, he said, sliding a folder across the Formica table. Something never added up, but I couldn't crack it. Your analysis fills the gaps. They destroyed my credibility. Nobody will believe me now. They won't have to believe you. They'll believe the workers, the shipping records, the satellite photos of empty warehouses. He pulled out a photograph, an aerial view of what should have been Novolite's bustling Costa Rica facility. It showed 6 empty buildings and a parking lot with 5 cars. Taken last week by a local environmental group documenting deforestation. Funny thing about claiming to run 3 shifts. Satellites don't lie about heat signatures and light pollution. That night, back at my mother's house, I sat on the back porch watching the stars, so much clearer here than in Denver. My phone rang. Cole. Elena, I hope you're being smart about this. Define smart. Novolite's offering a settlement, full salary for 2 years, clean recommendation letter, all accusations dropped. You sign an NDA and move on. That's what the others did, isn't it? The analysts Maya found? Silence. Then, it's a good offer, Elena. Better than good. It's a lifeline. It's a bribe. It's a business decision. Like the one I made. His voice dropped. You think I wanted this? You were my best analyst. But Kestrel has contracts, relationships. Novolite threatened to pull their entire institutional network. That's 40% of our revenue. So you traded my career for the firm's quarterly numbers. I traded one career for 30 jobs. Don't pretend you wouldn't have done the same. Maybe he was right. Maybe a month ago, I would have made the same calculation. But that was before I'd met the workers at Sunset Manufacturing. Before I'd read the Discord posts from retail investors mortgaging their futures. Before I'd seen how deep the rot went. The offer expires tomorrow night, Cole said. After that, they go scorched earth, your choice. I hung up and opened my laptop. The cursor blinked on a blank page. I had a choice. All right. Take the money and disappear. Another casualty swept under the corporate carpet, or light a match and see how much of their paper empire would burn. I started typing. To whom it may concern, my name is Elena Marlowe, and I'm about to show you why Novolite Dynamics is the most dangerous investment on the American market. Trust was currency, and I was about to cause a run on the bank. We met in Maya's law office after hours, the city light sprawling below us like a circuit board. 3 people against a $12 billion lie. Maya had disabled the security cameras, attorney-client privilege, she said. Though technically I wasn't her client. Gus spread his research across the conference table, shipping manifests, incorporation documents, photographs. I contributed the financial forensics. Together, we were building something that couldn't be dismissed as one rogue analyst's vendetta. We need to be surgical about this, Maya said, her legal pad already filled with notes. No speculation, no editorializing, just facts, properly documented, legally obtained. We're not trying to destroy them. We're letting them destroy themselves. The timing is critical, I added. Novolite reports earnings in 3 weeks. Their credit facility comes up for renewal next month. And most importantly, I pulled up an SEC filing. The executive team's lockup period for insider sales expires in exactly 18 days. Gus whistled. They're planning to cash out? Wouldn't you? They know this house of cards can't stand forever. We divided the work. Gus would track down former employees, focusing on those with no NDAs or expired ones. Maya would file Freedom of Information requests for environmental inspections, safety violations, anything that created a paper trail. I would analyze the financial patterns, creating visualizations that even a retail investor could understand. We need a smoking gun, Gus said. Something beyond circumstantial. That's when I remembered Shannon Hale. She'd been flagged in my original research, a quality control engineer whose signature appeared on reports that certified impossible production numbers. LinkedIn showed she'd left Novolite 6 months ago, now working for a small firm in Boulder. I drove out to meet her the next morning. She agreed to coffee but looked ready to run the moment I sat down. I can't talk about Novolite, she said immediately. I signed an NDA that prevents you from disclosing trade secrets, not from reporting potential securities fraud to authorities. Her hands trembled around her coffee cup. You don't understand. These people, they have lawyers, connections. They destroyed you, and you were just an outside analyst. They destroyed me because I was getting close. Shannon, your signatures on reports claiming production rates that would require your facility to operate at 400% capacity. That's not possible. I know. The words came out as a whisper. They made me sign blank reports. Said it was for efficiency, that production would fill them in later with the actual numbers. But the numbers kept growing, and my signature was already there. Do you have copies? She looked out the window for a long moment. I kept everything, screenshots, emails, even recordings of meetings where they discussed optimizing the reports. I thought maybe someday. She turned back to me. But I have a daughter. I'm a single mom. I can't afford to lose this job too. You won't have to. Whistleblower protections don't protect you from being unhireable. She stood up. I'm sorry, Elena. I really am. She left, but not before sliding a business card across the table. On the back, she'd written, "If you can guarantee protection, call me." That evening, our team reconvened. Maya had discovered something interesting in the environmental filings. 3 inspections of the Costa Rica facility were scheduled, then mysteriously canceled. The inspector who was supposed to conduct them retired early at age 44. Let me guess, I said. Nice retirement package? House in Turks and Caicos. Gus had been busy too. 7 former employees willing to talk on background, all tell the same story. Pressure to falsify production reports, customer orders that existed only on paper, shipments that never shipped but were marked delivered. It's still not enough, I said. We need Shannon's documents, and we need them authenticated. Maya pulled out her phone. I know someone at the Department of Justice, White-Collar Crime Division. If we can give them something concrete, they might be willing to offer Shannon immunity in exchange for cooperation. That's a big if. Then we make it smaller. Maya started typing. Elena. Prepare a comprehensive report, everything we have, organized and annotated. Gus. Write your article but hold publication. We're going to synchronize this. Like a controlled demolition, Gus said. Exactly. We place the charges carefully, then detonate them in sequence. First the DOJ, then the SEC, then the media. By the time Novolite knows what's happening, it'll be too late for damage control. I thought about the retail investors in Discord, the workers at Sunset Manufacturing, everyone who'd placed their trust in a story about clean energy and American innovation. They deserved the truth, even if it hurt. When do we pull the trigger? I asked. Maya smiled, the kind of smile that probably terrified opposing counsel. The day before their earnings call, maximum pressure, minimum time to respond. We had 2 weeks to build a case that would stand up to the best lawyers money could buy. 2 weeks to turn whistleblowers into witnesses, documents into evidence, suspicions into proof. 2 weeks to prove that trust, once broken, carries a price that no amount of creative accounting can hide. The story broke in stages, like a controlled avalanche. First, a town hall meeting in Greywater where Sunset Manufacturing workers stood up one by one, sharing how they'd been stiffed on wages while being forced to sign production reports for batteries that didn't exist. Local news picked it up. Just a small segment about struggling workers. Nothing that would trigger Novolite's alarm systems. Then came the community forums. Former employees started posting on LinkedIn, carefully worded messages about culture challenges and ethical concerns at their previous employer. Each post alone meant nothing. Together, they formed a pattern that industry watchers couldn't ignore. We're building pressure, Gus explained as we monitored the response from Maya's office. Like cracks in a dam, no single crack brings it down. But eventually, my phone rang. Cole. Elena, what are you doing? My job, just without the corporate leash. They know it's you behind this. The Greywater story, the LinkedIn posts, your fingerprints are all over it. Prove it. I don't have to prove it. They don't have to prove it. They just have to bury you in legal fees until you break. His voice softened. That settlement offer? It's still on the table, but not for much longer. How much are they paying you, Cole? Silence. They're paying you personally, aren't they? Not just protecting Kestrel's contracts. You don't know what you're talking about. I know you called Dorian Kells from your personal phone 6 times the week after I submitted my report. I know because you used the company Wi-Fi. And Maya's FOIA request included the network logs. The line went dead. Shannon called an hour later. I saw the Greywater story. Those workers, I know them. I signed the reports that said their facility was producing at capacity. Her voice cracked. My signature put them out of work. Then help us make it right. The DOJ offer. Is it real? Immunity in exchange for full cooperation. Maya has it in writing. A long pause. I have everything on a cloud drive. Sending you the link now. What Shannon delivered was devastating. Not just falsified production reports, but recorded Zoom calls where executives explicitly discussed creating phantom inventory to boost valuation ahead of a planned acquisition. One recording featured Dorian Kells himself saying, "The market values growth story over growth reality. We're just giving them what they want to believe." Gus's article was ready, but we needed a second source for verification. That's when Marcus reached out. We met at Union Station, surrounded by travelers and noise. He looked terrible, unshaven, exhausted, wearing the same clothes I'd seen him in days ago. "They're in full panic mode," he said without preamble. "Shredding documents, deleting servers. They hired my firm to manage the crisis, but there's no managing this." "Why are you telling me?" "Because I chose wrong." He pulled out a USB drive. Internal communications from their PR war room. Every strategy they're planning, every journalist they're trying to influence, every investor they're privately warning to exit positions. This could end your career. My career ended the moment I chose it over doing the right thing. He stood to leave, then paused. "That morning, when you were presenting your findings to Cole?" I was on the other end of his call. Novolite had me in their office, listening in. "I could have warned you. I didn't." "And now?" "Now I'm warning everyone." The final piece came from an unexpected source, one of the Discord retail investors, username Deep Value Dad, had been analyzing Novolite's customer base. He discovered that their 3 largest customers, accounting for 60% of reported revenue, shared the same registered agent, the same incorporation date, and had no web presence, employees, or physical locations beyond P.O. boxes in Delaware. "Shell companies," I told Maya. "They're selling to themselves. That's wire fraud. That's RICO territory." Gus published his article at 4:47 p.m. Eastern, 13 minutes before market close. The Potemkin Factory, inside Novolite's $12 billion fiction. It was picked up by Reuters within minutes, then Bloomberg, then everyone. The executives tried to hold an emergency call at 6 p.m. It was a disaster. Dorian Kells stammered through prepared statements while analysts hammered him with questions he couldn't answer. Someone leaked the call recording, Marcus is doing, I suspected, where board members could be heard arguing in the background about who knew what and when. By 8 p.m., 3 institutional investors had announced they were reviewing their positions. The credit facility syndicate called an emergency meeting, and the SEC announced they were aware of allegations and reviewing the matter with appropriate urgency. My phone hadn't stopped ringing. Journalists, investigators, lawyers. Everyone wanted to talk to the analyst who'd seen it first, but I wasn't answering. I was watching the Discord channel, where Deep Value Dad was explaining to devastated investors how he'd missed the shell company scheme. "I wanted to believe," he wrote. "We all did. That's what they counted on. Trust, once broken, shatters in every direction, and we'd just hit it with a sledgehammer." The market opened at 9:30 a.m. Eastern. By 9:31, Novolite was down 40%. I watched from Maya's office, surrounded by screens showing CNBC, Bloomberg, and the raw feed from the exchange. The numbers fell in real time, each tick representing millions in vanished value. Trading was halted at 9:37 for volatility. When it resumed at 9:52, the selling accelerated. "SEC just announced a formal investigation," Maya said, reading from her phone. "DOJ is opening a criminal probe." My laptop showed the Discord channel melting down. Retail investors were posting screenshots of their portfolios, red numbers bleeding across every position. Deep Value Dad was trying to maintain order, but the chat had devolved into rage and despair. Then I heard it. Cole's voice, crystal clear through my phone speaker. I'd accidentally left the recorder running during our last conversation, and now his words filled the room. Dorian wants the numbers adjusted before the quarterly report. Make them work, whatever it takes. Elena's getting too close. Jesus, Gus whispered. That's conspiracy to commit securities fraud. I posted the recording to the SEC whistleblower portal, CC'd the DOJ, and sent a copy to Gus for verification. Within minutes, Reuters had a flash headline. Audio recording suggests Novolite executives coordinated financial manipulation. The afternoon emergency board call was supposed to be confidential. It lasted 12 minutes. Someone inside, later I'd learn it was the CFO, trying to save himself, live-streamed the whole thing. Dorian Kells was screaming about betrayal while board members demanded his immediate resignation. The general counsel kept repeating, "This call is privileged," into the chaos, as if attorney-client privilege could stop an avalanche. At 2:47 p.m., Citibank pulled Novolite's credit line. The company had 72 hours to repay $800 million or face default. Marcus texted me, "They're in the conference room shredding everything. Security just escorted Dorian out." He threw a laptop at the wall. The stock touched $8.50 before another halt. When trading resumed for the final 30 minutes, institutional investors dumped everything. The algorithms, programmed to cut losses, created a feedback loop of selling. Every bounce was met with larger waves of liquidation. Shannon called, crying. "The FBI just left my house. They said I did the right thing, that I'm a witness, not a target." "You saved a lot of people from losing even more," I told her. "Did I? Look at the price. Look at all those retirement accounts." She was right. The collateral damage was enormous. But the alternative, letting the fraud continue until complete collapse, would have been worse. Small comfort to someone watching their savings evaporate. At 3:58 p.m., 2 minutes before close, someone bought a massive block of shares at $5.25. The price jumped to $5.40, giving desperate bulls a moment of hope. Then the final sells hit. Closing price, $4.73, down 91% from the morning's open. The after-hours session was a ghost town. No buyers, only automated systems adjusting positions. Novolite issued a statement at 6 p.m. The company is evaluating strategic alternatives and remains committed to its stakeholders. Corporate speak for, "We're finished." I stood at Maya's window, watching the city lights flicker on. Somewhere out there, in suburban homes and city apartments, people were staring at screens showing numbers that had once represented their futures. Retirements postponed, college funds vanished, dreams deferred. All because they'd trusted a story about innovation and growth. "You did the right thing," Maya said, joining me at the window. "Did I? Or did I just transfer wealth from believers to cynics who saw the crash coming?" "You revealed the truth. What people do with truth is their choice." My phone buzzed. An unknown number. But I recognized the area code, Seaside Ridge, Delaware. "Ms. Marlowe?" The voice was gravelly, tired. "This is Harold Winters, chairman of Novolite's board. We're having an emergency meeting tomorrow morning. We need someone who understands the real numbers to help us assess the damage. Would you consider—" I hung up. The audacity was breathtaking. They wanted to hire me to clean up the mess they'd created by destroying me. Gus was typing furiously, preparing his follow-up story. The headline was already written. The 90% drop, inside the day, Novolite dynamics fell apart. "You want a quote?" he asked. I thought about trust, about the workers in Greywater, about Deep Value Dad and his community of believers, about Cole and Marcus and the choices we make when the numbers stop adding up. "Yeah," I said. "Trust isn't rebuilt, it's earned from scratch, and some companies, like some people, run out of chances to earn it. The market would open again tomorrow. New stories would be sold. New trust would be wagered. But tonight, Novolite Dynamics was worth exactly what it had always been worth. Nothing dressed up as something. Finally exposed for everyone to see. The emergency board meeting was held in Novolite's glass tower, the same building they'd featured in every investor presentation. I arrived with Maya and 2 FBI agents who'd insisted on attending. The reception desk was abandoned, the marble lobby echoing with our footsteps. Security badges no longer worked. They'd stopped paying the access control vendor. The boardroom had the sterile panic of a trauma ward. 8 board members, 3 lawyers, and in the corner, Cole Vance, looking like he'd aged 5 years in 5 days. Dorian Kells sat at the far end, flanked by his personal attorney, his usual commanding presence reduced to hollow defiance. Harold Winters, the board chairman, didn't waste time on pleasantries. Ms. Ed Marlowe, we need an accurate assessment of our actual financial position. The real numbers. Now you want real numbers? I kept my voice steady. After spending months burying them? We were misled. One board member interjected. Management assured us. Stop. I pulled out my laptop, connected it to their system. Every quarterly board packet included warning signs, revenue concentration in shell companies, impossible inventory turnover rates, cash burn masked by circular transactions. You chose not to see. The FBI agent beside me shifted forward. Ms. Marlowe is here as a cooperating witness. Her analysis will be part of the criminal investigation. I displayed the real numbers on the screen. Actual cash, $17 million. Actual inventory, $12 million. Real customer contracts, maybe $30 million in annual revenue. Liabilities, $2.3 billion. That's impossible. Dorian finally spoke. Our facilities alone are worth. Your facilities are leased. The equipment is financed. The patents you claim are either pending or licensed from others. You own almost nothing. Cole stood up. Elena, you have to understand. I was trying to protect yourself. You were protecting yourself. I clicked to the next slide, email exchanges between Cole and Dorian, planning how to discredit me. You didn't just give them my analysis. You helped them weaponize it. That's not, the context. The context is securities fraud. The context is conspiracy. The FBI agent was taking notes. Mr. Vance, you'll have your opportunity to provide context in your deposition. Harold Winters interrupted. What do you recommend, Ms. Marlowe? Chapter 11, Bankruptcy. Today, liquidation, not reorganization. Return whatever's left to shareholders and creditors, and cooperate fully with authorities. That would mean admitting the truth? Yes, that would mean admitting the truth. Dorian slammed his hand on the table. This is insane. We built something revolutionary. We were changing the world. You built nothing. You changed nothing. I pulled up the final slide, photos from Gus's investigation, empty warehouses, idle production lines, parking lots full of weeds. You sold a story. When people stopped believing it, there was nothing underneath. You destroyed us, he said, staring at me with undisguised hatred. You destroyed thousands of jobs, millions in value. No, you did that the moment you decided fiction was easier than production. I closed my laptop. I just showed everyone what was already broken. Maya stepped forward. Gentlemen, the U.S. Attorney's Office has prepared criminal complaints against Mr. Kells, Mr. Vance, and 4 other executives. You can surrender voluntarily, or we can do this differently. The room erupted. Lawyers huddling with clients, board members shouting about liability, Dorian's attorney demanding to see warrants. In the chaos, Cole approached me. Elena, please, my kids, my wife, they don't deserve this. Neither did the workers, neither did the investors, neither did I. I'm sorry. God, I'm so sorry. Sorry doesn't rebuild trust. Sorry doesn't restore what was destroyed. He pulled out his phone, showing me a message. Kestrel fired me this morning. Every client fled. 30 people lost their jobs because of my choices. Because of your choices, not mine. The FBI agents stood. Mr. Vance, Mr. Kells, we need you to come with us. As they were let out, Dorian turned back one last time. When did you decide? When did you decide to burn it all down? I thought about the question. Was it when they destroyed my career? When Marcus chose them over me? When I saw those workers in Greywater? When you decided that trust was just another asset to leverage, I said. When you treated belief like a commodity to trade? The boardroom emptied except for Harold Winters and me. Outside the windows, the city moved on, indifferent to the corporate catastrophe playing out 50 floors above. We'll need someone to oversee the wind down, he said quietly. Someone who understands the numbers, the real ones. Hire Shannon Hale. She knows where all the bodies are buried, and she deserves a chance to do something right with that knowledge. I left them there, in their glass tower built on paper foundations. In the lobby, a news crew was setting up. Tomorrow. This building would be famous for all the wrong reasons. But today, in this moment, it was just another crime scene, waiting for the tape to be rolled out. The morning sun cut through the glass lobby like an accusation. Outside, employees were already gathering, some crying, most just staring at their phones in disbelief. Their key cards wouldn't work. Their stock options were worthless. Their futures had evaporated overnight. I stood by the revolving door, watching them process what we'd all known was coming, but nobody wanted to believe. A young engineer, maybe 25, was explaining to his pregnant wife on FaceTime that his shares were worth less than the paper they'd never been printed on. A security guard, 2 weeks from retirement, sat on the concrete planter, holding his head in his hands. These weren't the architects of the fraud. These were the believers, the ones who'd shown up every day thinking they were building something real. The collateral damage always looks different up close. My phone vibrated constantly. Reporters, job offers, legal teams wanting my expertise in unwinding other corporate fictions. Marcus had texted 6 times. I deleted them all unread. Some bridges, once burned, weren't meant to be rebuilt. The FBI agents emerged from the building, Cole and Dorian in handcuffs. The news cameras surged forward, shouting questions that would never be answered. Cole looked at me through the crowd, his mouth forming words I couldn't hear over the chaos. Dorian kept his head high, still performing even as his empire collapsed behind him. Ms. Marlowe! A reporter shoved a microphone at me. How does it feel to be vindicated? Vindicated. As if this was about winning, as if watching thousands of people lose their savings was some kind of victory. No comment, I said, pushing past them. Maya was waiting by her car. The DOJ wants you as their key witness. The trial could take years. I know. You'll be tied to this for a long time. I know that too. She handed me an envelope. Whistleblower reward. The SEC approved the initial payment. It's substantial. I didn't open it. Blood money, even when it's legally yours, still smells like copper. Back at my mother's house in Greywater, I sat on the same porch where I'd made the decision to fight back. The mountains hadn't changed. The stars were still there, constant and indifferent. But everything else was different now. Shannon called. They offered me the wind-down position, 60 days to help liquidate everything properly. Make sure the workers get what they're owed first. Take it, do it right. Elena, thank you for making it safe to tell the truth. After she hung up, I opened my laptop one last time. The Discord channel had gone dark. Deep value. Dad had posted a final message. Trust isn't something you put in companies or people. It's something you build through verification. We forgot that. We won't forget again. The market had closed an hour ago. Novolite's ticker had been suspended. Pending delisting. Where $12 billion of market cap had existed yesterday, there was now just a gray line that said, trading halted. I pulled out my notebook, the same one I'd used for the initial analysis. On the last page, I wrote a single line. Trust isn't for sale. Then I closed it and walked inside. Tomorrow. There would be depositions and investigations, trials and recriminations. There would be other novelites, other elaborate fictions dressed up as innovations. The market would create new stories, and people would choose to believe them. Because the alternative, that it's all just paper and promises, is too terrifying to contemplate. But tonight, in this moment, the numbers finally added up. The real ones always do. Eventually, I didn't look back at the laptop, at the phone still buzzing with messages, at the envelope with the whistleblower payment. I just walked inside and closed the door. Some stories don't get epilogues. They just end, leaving everyone to count the cost and decide what they'll trust tomorrow. This was one of them. The automatic doors sealed behind me, and the city swallowed whatever explanations the guilty might have offered. Trust, once shattered, sounds exactly like silence. Thank you for listening to this story of corporate betrayal and the price of truth. I'd love to know where you're listening from. Drop a comment below and let's connect. If this story resonated with you, please subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts on trust, revenge, and the choices we make when everything we believed in falls apart.